Hey, what's up everyone? This is Silver Slayer. Thank you for tuning into this video. The theory of $100 silver has been lurking around the world of precious metals for some time now, so I want to dig into this. I really want to see how possible is this. Many of you might not know that silver was $50 not even 10 years ago, and actually in the last 30 years, silver's been $50 twice. So we're already halfway there, and it's not that out of the range of impossibility to even discuss $100 silver, especially given the circumstances. Now, I found two articles, one talking about forget about whether $100 silver is possible. How about 1,000? I also found one that's going over this extremely high notion of prices to places that people couldn't even fathom, and the articles really do break down some extremely important points that I want to go out and I want to mention in this video that I think will be relevant, but also I think you guys will enjoy. So before we start, make sure to smash that like button. Let's try to get 100 likes on this video. Every single like counts. I appreciate it so much. So let's jump into this article. Oh, by the way, both links to these articles will be in the description. So, starts off to say, forget about whether $100 silver is possible. How about $1,000 silver? Man, I wonder what the gold to silver ratio would be then. 1.5 to 1. But anyways, it starts off to say, I don't know of many charts out there that are bullish investors since 2011 would look at me with more disgust than that silver chart. It's been exceptionally painful experience for those bullishly inclined since 2011. And they're talking about since silver was $50. In fact, silver's dropped 70% from its 2011 heights to its recent lows and still not done. But the story certainly has a silver lining for those who are willing to be a bit more patient. By the way, this article was written 2015. So it's not about the context of when it was written, it's more about the actual stuff he's talking about because it's timeless. So, on August 30th, 2011, I wrote my first public column about silver, which called for a market top in silver with a shorting target of 42.9, and it must remain below 44.3 or $44.30 for the downside to ensue. Within the same column, I provided a downside target of $26 in the futures contracts. So on September 2nd, 2011, silver futures reached a high of 43.72 and then began a waterfall decline, which spiked as low as 26 within 24 days later before a larger counter-trend rally took hold. In fact, in my comments to this column, I noted September 3rd, 2011, we were probably within a trading day or two of a big move, and my perspective was clearly to the downside as I was shorting silver as the time. As we know it now, the silver declined 38% within 3 weeks. Our analyst, which even identified the level at which silver would target, was within 0.44 of the bottom actually struck. Until early part of 2012, I viewed that region as the potential end of the correction off the 2011 top and was looking to start the next bull market phase at that time. But the setup I was watching was invalidated and caused me to begin looking to even lower levels. Now, chart analysis are a tricky thing because you don't really know. All you're doing is basically trying to copy the historical patterns that you see, but there's no way to accurately predict prices for precious metals because there's things that are happening in the economy that influence the price. What if something next week happens huge between U.S.-China trade negotiations that would highly affect prices? We don't have a crystal ball, so it's not like we can just, look in the future and see what's going to happen. So it really is all speculation when it comes to this stuff. In early 2014, when silver was around the $22 region and investors were getting bullish again, I was warning that we were setting up for a final drop in silver toward the $11 to $14 region. As we now know, silver traded down toward the $14 region, and we are not yet done with the correction, but in our opinion, we are likely within a few months of the final low. The question becomes, what are we looking for once silver does bottom? Well, many of you have read my analysis on mining stock targeting 15,000 in the HUI within 50 years. My expectation for silver is no less outrageous based upon the same methodology that we use to identify the tops and bottoms in gold. It suggests that silver will be heading toward the $1,000 an ounce region within the next 50 years. The shorter term pattern suggests that we will be heading up back toward the $40-$50 region within the next 3 to 5 years. And within the next 15 years, I am expecting silver to be able to increase by 10-15 times that price, which will be in the soon bottom. This means I would expect silver to exceed the $100 mark within the next decade or so. which is an interesting thing to mention, especially if you're not looking at the gold to silver ratio or incorporating that into the mix as well. So while many of these view types are of the projections as only being able to benefit their children or grandchildren due to the long-term time frame, silver is still presenting itself as a high probability bottom within the next near term, and likely heading back to the prior all-time highs within the next 5 years. So for those who are rather confident in the ability to survive on this planet for the next 5 years, you have a nice investment opportunity before you, and it's quite a high probability silver will be appreciable by 2020 relative to where now size 2015. So right now it's almost 2020, and silver is still around the $17 range. So he was, let's say, wrong if he's talking about the next 5 years, but we do have a lot of huge things happening next year for silver. We have the 2020 presidential election, and that right there itself could send prices skyrocketing. So that's something to also incorporate. So I thought that was an interesting article. He brought some really interesting points as well. So this article is it goes over the charts, but it goes over the gold to silver ratio. There was something that the first article missed. Both of these articles will be in the description if you want to check them out yourselves. But some of the main parts of this include the COMEX silver prices are managed by large players, including JPM, which previously wanted silver prices to remain low. That may be changing, and we know that JP Morgan can actually manipulate prices, so if they want prices to go higher, they more than likely can do that. How rapidly the Fed and commercial banking increase supply of dollars, and how much will they devalue the dollar? How extreme will our political circus become? Distractions may be necessary. The usual response is a war after a suitable scapegoat has been identified. False flag operations may direct blame attention away from policy failures and towards some common enemy. War increases silver prices. When will the U.S. citizens lose confidence in the dollar? Which seems like it's happening more and more. How rapidly will foreign countries, including China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, directly commerce away from the dollar? Hyperinflation from 1970 style inflation, and rise of IMF and special drawing rights as global currency. So this article is actually written in 2019, so it's definitely more relevant. But it does show a lot of interesting things. So first, we have the summary. The silver prices for the next decade are dependent upon many unknowns, which I love that they incorporate the unknown factors, because that's so important. There's a lot of things that we just don't know that will be happening. We didn't know about the U.S.-China trade negotiations that would send prices almost up to $20 out of the blue. We didn't know the Hong Kong protests would be so devastating and to get to such serious levels. Things we can predict are stock market volatility. We can predict the dollar index, but the political side of it, there's a lot of things that we just don't know, especially the 2020 presidential election. So the long trend channel has contained most silver prices for the past 20 years, and you can see that the price it's never just going all the way up. You never want a market to just go up, up, up. That's a huge red sign or red flag indicator there'll be a huge crash happening. That's why when you see it go high right here, crash happens. When it goes high right here, it bottoms out. You want it to gradually go up, and that's the way that silver is headed. You can see right here. So if you look at these charts, they're saying that it could be going all the way up here, but this is a log scale expanding. It's interesting because it's not as accurate as you would want with actual prices or compared to the gold to silver ratio. But it goes on to say a blow off rally in silver is quite possible. Suggests silver prices rallying toward 200, 300 an ounce. For comparison, Bitcoin was $3 a few years ago and recently exceeded 1,700. We actually saw Bitcoin up to 20,000, and that's something to think about. But Bitcoin is a much different market, so don't get those two too correlated, because it's a completely different market, and you saw Bitcoin have a huge crash afterwards. But where do you think silver is? What realistic price do you think silver could be if we are talking about $100 silver? Is it only around the $60 range? Do you think it could go well beyond $100, and why? I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think that silver actually could become something that is closer to gold price than we imagine? We see the gold to silver ratio around 85 to 1, and that's usually an indicator that silver is outperforming gold. Well, if the ratio is going downwards, that means that silver is outperforming gold. But back in the day, the gold to silver ratio was 1 to 1, and we see gold at $1,500. So what would it take for the ratio to go back to around 15 to 1? Because it only comes out of the ground roughly 8 to 1. So silver is not much more common than gold is. So what's going to take for these prices, or for the ratio to normalize back out to these levels? And also, what would the prices be with gold and silver? That's a really good question. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, both of the links to these articles will be in the description if you want to check them out. out. Sometimes I just try to highlight the main points. I know I have to read kind of fast, try to keep the videos in a timely manner, but you know, sometimes I might mess up words or mess up some phrasing or whatever, but it's because I'm trying to read extremely fast to make sure that you guys aren't sitting here for too long, because especially since I post so many videos a day. But speaking of that, I also posted 2 other videos today. One, I broke out some silver and just shared my personal opinion, my thoughts on the markets and the silver price right now. I also made another video earlier than that talking about some of the stuff going up behind silver's price and where I think central banks fit into all this stuff. You definitely don't want to miss. It'll be in the top left and right hand corner. So hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to smash that like button. Once again, this was Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.